Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eloise and today we are doing my November wrap up, which I just cannot believe it's the end of November. I can't believe we're in December. I cannot believe we're in the last month of the year. Wow. November went really quickly for me. I read 10 books. One I DNF'd very quickly, so I haven't included it, but I may briefly mention it. I didn't have the best reading month. I read quite a lot, but quite a lot of meh books. So yeah, let's go through it. So I will start off with the books I rated lowest and then go through to the books I rated highest. So yeah, we've got 3 2-stars, 3 2-stars, yeah, 2 3-stars, 3 4-stars, 1 4.5 and 1 5. So very mixed bag for me this month. The first book we'll talk about is Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud. So these are my 2-star books. I listened to this on audio and I didn't like it at all. And I'm really surprised because obviously this was a shortlisted Costa Book Awards book in 2020. Lots of people love this book and find it really emotional and beautiful, and I just sadly didn't. So in this book we follow Betty, her son Solo, and their lodger Mr. Cheaton. They kind of have, it's almost like a family, but it's not, because Mr. Cheaton is not a member of the family. However, he's taken in as like a member of their family, if that makes sense. We follow all of their perspectives over a number of years, and one night over a glass of rum, a dark secret comes out which kind of destroys the happy life that they have. Solo ends up moving to New York and having a different life from the one in Trinidad with his mother and Mr. Cheaton, and his mother, Betty, really misses him and finds it very tough without him. And yeah, we follow all their different stories over a number of years. So it's very much a character driven book, and a lot happens, but I didn't like it, and I don't know why, because character driven books, emotional books, are my favourite type of books. And I feel like it started off really well, like the description of beautiful Trinidad and like their accents and dialect and the food they were eating and stuff. I really enjoyed it. I feel like after the revelation happened, it kind of lost its way, particularly when Solo went to New York. I lost interest a little bit. I didn't think the story flowed quite as well. I don't really want to say too much about what happened, but a lot happens in this book. A lot of hard to like take in, traumatic things, graphic things happen, and I don't know why. I should have really been emotional towards it, towards these characters and what happened, and I just wasn't. I'd read a particularly devastating scene and not feel anything, and I can't explain or put my finger on why that happened. I just feel like the writing perhaps lost its way a little bit, because I'm a crybaby at books. I get really affected by books and absorbed into characters' lives, and particularly when stuff that happens in this book happens, and it just didn't click with me, and I just didn't really, I did care, that's wrong. I wasn't connected or invested into the characters. I was invested in Mr. Cheaton. He was probably my favourite character, but equally I wasn't really involved or immersed into the story, unfortunately. I listened to this on audio. Is that possibly why? I'm not sure, but a lot of people that have read this physically who I've spoken to said they felt the same, and none of us can quite put our finger on what was necessarily missing from the book to make us really care about it. So I'm really sad I didn't like this one, but yeah, unfortunately wasn't my favourite of the month. Next, this is non-fiction. So ratings, I don't really like giving ratings on non-fiction, but I have to say and be honest, I didn't like this book at all. This is The Prison Doctor by Dr. Amanda Brown. Before I say anything else, I would just like to say that I'm sure she does an absolutely incredible job, a difficult job, works really difficult and long hours, sees some awful things, really cares for her patients and does a lot, so I would never discredit that. However, I did not like this book. I thought I would, I really thought I would. So we follow Dr. Amanda Brown, as she's initially a GP in kind of her own practice she's built herself. It's very successful, and then due to some policy changes which she's not happy about, she decides to quit and become a prison doctor. And I thought this book would be full of like prisoner stories, and you know, you'd really grow to care for the prisoners, and I really didn't like it. I didn't. Why didn't I like you? Why didn't I like you, Mr. Book? Firstly, there weren't enough prisoner stories. The third part in this was when she went to a women's prison, and it was the smallest part by far, and it was my favourite because it wasn't too much about the author herself. I found this book, I'm really sorry to say, very self-congratulatory and me. And I don't know how to describe what I mean, because naturally it's going to be it's going to be about the author because it's a book about her life. But I read This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, and I absolutely adored it, and it's very much him and his inner thoughts and what he's going through, but it's not like, oh, poor me and well done me. It's not like that. And I found this book to be very much well done me, and yeah, well done you do a brilliant job, but it's not I don't know what I'm trying to say because I don't want to upset anyone. It is obviously about her, but it was very much like something traumatic would happen, like someone would get beaten up or have like mental health issues, and somehow it came back to what, oh God, you know, it was down to me and how wonderful I am, and I changed their lives, and oh, it really affected me. Like, yeah, I wanted to know about the prisoner. I don't know how it affected you. I don't. Oh yeah. And like she went to an old GP friend's party, and there were loads of other like private practice GPs there and stuff, and she was just very much like, I don't belong here anymore, as if like she was better than them because she works in as a prison doctor rather than a private practice GP. And I just was like, what? I really didn't like it. I didn't like the author at all. She was just too well done me, very much old prisoners. Like she really seemed to like those and bond with those that came across as intelligent, and you know, she didn't say they weren't supposed to be in there, but they were the ones that gave that impression that perhaps they weren't supposed to be in there, or they were just, you know, they were like intellectual. I wrote her poetry and stuff and she really liked them. But then a guy came into the practice, sorry, not the practice, like her doctor's office, and you know, he had like tattoos and had a bald head, and she was creeped out by him. He turned out to be nice, but it's just very stereotypical, judgy and self-congratulatory and well done me, and I really didn't like it. So I couldn't rate this book. I just couldn't rate it. I don't recommend it at all. I'm so sorry. So many people love it, and maybe it was the audiobook and how it was read out that changed how I felt. I didn't like it at all. I'll stop talking now. Next, another 2-star. I Was So Lucky by Dawn Porter, which I'm really surprised about. This is a book about 3 women, Beth, Ruby and Lauren, and they all kind of portray that they have this wonderful life where perhaps behind the scenes they don't. And I thought I'd love this. I really like contemporary fiction by the likes of Dolly Alderton and Daisy Buchanan, and I just thought I'd love this, and I really like Dawn Porter and I like her writing style. However, firstly, Ruby, one of the main characters, was the most unlikable woman I've ever read about. She was not very nice to her daughter. She was not very nice to anyone really, and obviously it unravels and you kind of understand why she is the way she is. But I don't think it really justified how horrible she was, to be honest. And I know it's fiction and it's not supposed to be real, but this is kind of very much a contemporary fiction based on real lives, but it's so unimaginably ridiculous, like the stuff that happens, and you're just like, really? It just wouldn't happen. What happens in this book just wouldn't happen, and I found it all a bit unrealistic and cheesy and a bit cliche, and yeah, it wasn't for me, unfortunately. But I really liked her writing style, so I may pick up another of her books in the future. Next we're on to the 3-star books, so these next 2 books are 3-star, and my first is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Now I know this is a 5-star book going everywhere at the moment, and honestly I bought it because of the hype, because this cover and the premise is not something I would want to read about. So we follow our main character Olive as she accidentally, but not so accidentally, kisses Adam Carlson, who is like a well-known, very grumpy professor where she's working. She's a 3rd-year PhD candidate, and the reason she does this is because her friend Anne likes Olive's ex, Jeremy, and the reason they're not getting together is because they think it will upset Olive. So Olive sees Anne walking in the corridor and thinks, you know what, I'm gonna kiss the first guy I see, so she thinks I've moved on, which leads to these 2 fake dating, and naturally from there fake dating turns into more. It was alright, it was very cute. The steamy scene was really good, but it was just a bit, I don't understand why it's so loved, because it's just another kind of romance, fake dating book, and they all go through the same sort of thing, if you know what I mean. And that's why I wouldn't have picked this up, because it's not a genre or kind of trope that I would really like. And I recently read Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is fake dating, and I enjoyed that a lot more than this one. It was cute and it was fine, and it got better because I found the first almost 200 pages really slow, and come on, something used to happen. I liked it, I didn't love it, that's all I have to say. Next is The Duchess Deal by Tessa. This is a Mills and Boon historical steamy romance. It was cheesy, it was cliche, it was steamy, it was everything I thought it would be. It was an easy read, it was what I was looking for at the time. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but it was enjoyable. I don't need to talk about this very much because it is pretty much what it says it is. Next, I read Station 11 by Emily St John Mandel, which I knew nothing about, but a lot of people say it's beautiful. And when I started reading it and realised it was kind of based on a global pandemic that wipes out 99% of the population, I was a bit like, oh, should I be reading this right now? Alas, I went on. Alas? Alas? Do I say alas? Apparently I do now. Nevertheless, I went on and read this book and really enjoyed it. So it was 4 stars, if I didn't say so already. We start off watching a man called Arthur Leander performing in King Lear on stage when he sadly suddenly dies of a heart attack on stage. And we follow both him in the past and the people involved in that night in the future and the past. So from that night, basically this whole virus wipes out most of the population. So we see before that event and after that event and the new world people are living in, and we follow lots of different people and try and work out how they all connect back to Arthur Leander's story. It's very slow paced. I think if you knew this book was about a pandemic, you'd think perhaps you're going into a very fast-paced kind of dystopian thriller, and that's not what this is at all. It's very beautifully written, very character-driven, slow-paced, reading about all these different people, as I said, who we find out eventually how they all link together. I really enjoyed this one. I know there's a show coming out which I'm really excited about, and I also think it leaves room for a sequel. I don't think there's been one announced or if it will happen, but I would love to read the next book in this series. Yeah, highly recommend. Next, I read One by One by Ruth Ware, which I got last year. I think it was gifted to me by a friend on Instagram. And this book was everywhere last year, and with it came very mixed reviews. We follow a kind of a startup company called Snoop. So it's an app where you can see what people are listening to. For example, you want to see what Beyonce is currently listening to? No problem. You want to also listen to exactly what she's listening to right now? No problem. That's essentially what the company is. They take their staff away on like a retreat in a snowy French place, I don't know where, like, so they can go on a skiing kind of retreat, and then an avalanche stops that from happening. They get locked in this chalet and suddenly they start being murdered one by one, and it's a locked room murder mystery, kind of who's doing this. I really didn't think I'd like this based on the reviews, and I really liked it. It's very fast paced and it's not very like deep, do you know what I mean? So if you want a kind of head scratcher, confusing, oh my god, twist turns type thriller, this isn't that. It's fast paced, not a lot of depth to it, but you're following the 2 main characters, Liz and Erin, from their kind of internal monologues, their inner thoughts and what they're both witnessing and perceiving, and I really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly. The ending is a bit meh, a bit disappointing, but I enjoyed the experience. I gave it 4 stars. Like, if you want an easy to read thriller, snowy based around wintertime, I would recommend this. Next, I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, another 4-star read. A trilogy I've been wanting to start for a while, and finally I did. We follow Jude and her sisters as her mother and father in the mortal world are killed by this man claiming to be Vivi, one of her sister's father, and he takes them to the Fey world, and that's where they grow up, and he ends up kind of being their father. And Jude is very, very bullied at school because she's mortal. by Carden and his friends. Carden is one of the princes, and yeah, she's really bullied, and she kind of wants to stand up for herself and prove that she is just as strong and capable as them. And then things happen, and I can't say what happens, but a lot happens, and what can I say? Stuff happens. Because I don't know what is a spoiler or not, so yeah. But we follow Jude as she perhaps becomes a bit of a spy on like the kingdom and what's going on and who's going to become the next king. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It did go a bit slow in the middle, but the ending I really enjoyed. Quite fast paced, like a YA fantasy, typical YA fantasy. Not a lot of romance, but I'm hoping we get a little bit in the next book. If you're looking for a Fae YA fantasy, like, I would recommend this. I thought it was really quite good. So yeah, 4 stars for that one. Next, I read The One by John Marrs. I listened to this on audio and then finished the last kind of 150 pages physically reading it, because I just needed to know, because I listen to my audiobooks while I'm commuting to and from work, and I got home and I was like, oh, I need to know what happens. So yeah, I finished the rest physically. In this one, it's based on the premise that you can send off a DNA sample and find out your one and only soulmate, like who you should be with. There's only one in the world, and we follow the lives of, I want to say five different people as they find their matches, and what that means, who their match is, what that means for their lives, how it's going to change and impact their lives. And I loved it. It was so good. It's my first book by John Marrs, but it's not going to be my last. I've got a couple of others on my shelf. I really enjoyed it. It's I wouldn't say it's like a twisty turny thriller really, but it's very fast paced. It's really short snappy chapters, and you're desperate to find out what's going to happen next. There are some unexpected things happen. There are some very creepy things that happen, some nice things that happen. And I need to watch the TV series of this, which I've heard is very different and not as good. But yeah, this is great. I really recommend it. A very clever idea. Yeah, really enjoyed. And finally, my favourite book of the month, and my only 5-star, was These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. We follow our main character Bree as she literally hates the Fae. Like, they took her mother away when she was younger and she just hates them. And she is living, it's almost like Cinderella at the start, she's living with her sister in the basement of her, I think it's her stepmother. Is it her stepmother? No, is it her aunt? I think it might be her aunt. It doesn't say, I think it's her aunt. And they kind of have to do all the cleaning and do like make the dresses for their cousins. And one day Bree gets home. It is Bree, isn't it? Yeah. And her sister has been sold to the Fae by her aunt. So Bree will do anything for her sister. She hates the Fae, wants never to go to kind of their land, but she will for her sister. And from there she goes to the Unseelie court, and the king asks her, you can have your sister back, but I need you to go and do some stuff for me in the Seelie court. And yeah, we follow her as she tries to steal these things so she can see her sister. There may be some romance in here. There may be a bit of a love triangle in here. I loved it. A lot of people say it's a bit like Court of Thorns and Roses and A Cruel Prince, and I can see what they're coming from, where they're coming from, and a lot of people don't like it because of that, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked all the characters. I flew through it. It was quite fast paced, really enjoyable, and I cannot wait to read the next one. I just have to wait over a year, but we won't talk about that. No, not over a year, like 7 months. July 2022 I think it comes out. I loved it. If you're a YA fantasy fan and like A Cruel Prince and A Court of Thorns and Roses, I know you will like this book. So those are all the books that I read in the month of November. A very mixed bag, but a new favourite, so you know. Let me know what you read in November and what you plan to read in December, and thank you so much for watching. I would really love it if you could give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see me waffle on some more. Have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever you're doing, and hopefully I will see you again in another video soon. Bye!